Hey guys, Cameron here. Today I'm going to do a setup and review for you of the REI Kingdom 6 tent. We have had the previous version of this tent probably 7 or 8 years now. Bought it when Caden was a little baby, and it's been everywhere all over the country, anywhere from local state parks around North Texas all the way up to Glacier in Montana, Capitol Reef, all the big parks in Utah and Arizona, pretty much anywhere. So we've had it in all sorts of weather conditions. Absolutely loved the original REI Kingdom 6. So we bought this one earlier this year. Have taken it on a few trips now and don't really care for it much at all. So I'm gonna set it up, show you the differences between this one and the original version, point out the things I don't really like about it, kind of clean this one up because I'm sending this one back. So to begin with, this is a just your standard 8x10 tarp. This is what we've always used for both tents we had. This is the original one. It's worked out great. It fits exactly under the Kingdom 6, so no need to buy an expensive footprint or anything. You can pick up an 8x10 tarp at Walmart or anywhere like that. Works great. Talk about the bag a little bit. This is very similar to the original bag, except for the original bag was green. It's a pretty heavy tent. You're not going to take this backpacking or anything. But if you do a walk-in campsite, it does have these backpack straps, so you can throw that on pretty easy. Or it has the carry handle if you're not going very far. It has these compartments here on the front that zip open, keep your tent stakes and guy lines in there, and then it unzips around the top. And it has separate compartments for your tent, rainfly, and then right down the center a compartment for the poles, which is really nice. I really like the bag. They did a really good job with that, and they didn't mess with that between the two versions of the tent. So now I'm gonna unroll it, we're gonna set it up and take a look at it. So the pole setup on this new tent is pretty different from the original tent. The original tent had a main arch pole that went to the four corners with one pole that went across the middle. This one has the main pole that goes to the four corners with two poles that go from about midway up and midway back around the ends, and one that goes across the middle, so way more poles. The hub design is a little bit different. This one's plastic. The old one was aluminum. Way more poles to set up. Takes a little bit longer to set this tent up, and I don't know, that's all there is to it. So we'll show you how that goes. So for the main poles, the tent has these orange clips, and you'll know those go on the main poles because the ends of the poles are orange. So that would be the amount of poles that the original tent had. It also had a piece sticking out the front, and that's what you would clip this to. But now it has these two additional poles, so we're going to put those on now, and I'll show you how that clips on. So that is the main tent body. This is a bug-proof zone now. I'll take you around the tent and show you what the poles look like a little bit more. So there you can see all the sets of poles. This is your main pole here. This is that crossing pole, goes down to the bottom there. These are the hooks I was talking about to hook both poles together. And here you can see a close-up of the different color clips that clip on the two different sets of poles. Here's your center pole here, just like it has in the original. Goes through this sleeve all the way up and over. And then here are the back, and same exact setup in the back. Wanted to point out a little bit about the doors because they are completely different than the original. So this is the back door. You'll know it's back because it has the screened in mesh. But on the original doors, the whole entire door was mesh. This one you can tell it has this other fabric down at the bottom. I don't believe that white is waterproof, but it definitely doesn't allow air to flow through. So in the original version, we had this entire original one was bug net, and then it had that white on the inside, and you could zip that closed for more or less ventilation. So we're back around to the front side of the tent. This door is completely different than the original tent. In the original one, the entire thing was bug screen as well, and then you could zip up. This is waterproof material because when you have the main fly over it, it doesn't cover this front edge, so this has to be waterproof. So in the original one, you had the entire bug screen, and then you could zip up the waterproof material. In this version of the tent, you only have bug screen from here to here, just a small little window, and then only the top part zips down. So you either have material hanging in, or I think how it's actually designed is to tuck into this small little space right here to kind of keep it out of the way. There's no way to tie it up. So if it's blowing around, eventually what we've noticed is it kind of ends up flopping back down. Also, since you can't zip this material all the way down and have bug net down here, you have way less airflow going through the tent as compared to the original tent. All right, now we're gonna throw the rainfly over the top, and I'll show you what that looks like. It is slightly different than the original one, and the rainfly is actually one of the things from this newer version of the tent that I actually like compared to the original version. So let's put that on, and then we'll give you a tour of the rainfly. So we got the main part of the rainfly on. Still have to stake out a few stakes back in the back, but I want to show you a close-up of the clips and how it actually attaches to the tent. So the way this attaches to the poles is with this red Velcro right here. And as you can see, something that's kind of weird to me is that comes right down the center seam, but this gray clip from the tent body also comes right up the center seam. So they don't, I mean, they're gonna overlap if they hit exactly symmetrical. So you have to kind of offset one over to the side a tiny bit. Here on the front pole, it has a lot bigger Velcro piece to go around both sets of poles to attach it to both sets. And then down here is the clip, and I do like the way that this clips in. It's just a buckle that snaps in instead of actually going under the pole, so it just clips in and then you can pull it tight. So I'm bringing you around here to the back of the tent. This area does have, I guess, what you would call a porch in the back, or a vestibule. It's quite a bit bigger, as in wider, than the old tent, but it doesn't hang out near as far. But I do really like the way the door sets up. This one requires 3 stakes. The original tent required 2 stakes, but I'll get those stakes put in and show you what that looks like. And the reason why that's different than the original one is the shape of the door. The original one had a solid piece of material that didn't move here in the middle with 2 separate doors. This one is all one big door that you have lots of different options of how to fold it back. Let me give you a closer look at what that looks like. So there's the bottom of the door, the 3 different stakes. And I will show you what that looks like when you can roll the door back and all the different options it has. So first you can just unzip one side of the door, and this is what you'd do probably if you were just going in and out like normal. So there's one side unzipped, and then you can roll this back to the center and just have one piece unzipped. You can do that on the other side, have both unzipped with both doors rolled to the middle, and that is out of your way. You can also unzip this up to the top. Do the same over here on the other side. Take this piece off of the stake it was on, and then you can roll this entire door up and have the whole thing out of the way. And that is something I really like compared to the original tent. You couldn't do that. All right, I brought you back around to the front side again. Just an overall entire picture of how the tent looks with the rainfly on. One thing you'll notice, this is different than the first tent, is that it has these vents up in the top with those little stays in the top that help hold it out. Those can be closed from the inside, and that's pretty convenient. If you could only do it from the outside, I wouldn't really care for that. I can't tell personally that it does a ton, but any amount of ventilation you can get, especially when it's hot, humid, or just humid in general, helps keep down the condensation. So let's go inside and check it out. So another thing is that this tent only has one set of zippers on the door, whereas the older version had 2 sets. So that was really convenient for us with kids. They have a hard time finding the zipper a lot. So the 2 sets helped a lot. So Olivia's going to show you something cool you can do with the door. You could do this on the older version as well, but if it's bug free, you want a lot of ventilation, you can take each door and stow it up in the top and have it completely open. That is the one true way to get some good ventilation in this tent. Only problem with that is, especially around here, there's not a ton of time in the year that it's going to be bug free or still warm enough that you're going to want the doors all the way up. But it does help when you're bringing your stuff in to set up your tent and set up the inside. So here's a picture of that pocket. Just sticks up there in the top. I think on the older version it was up here in the front. Not really a big difference. That doesn't really matter. One thing we use this pocket for, because we don't really stick the doors up there a lot, is we stick a little small black diamond lantern up there on each end, and that really helps get some good ambient light for the tent. It also has these corner pockets that the older tent didn't have. You could stick something up there, a light as well, or sometimes I'll put like a pocket knife up there, something I don't want my 4-year-old getting to. It's a little too high for him to reach to. So something else really cool about this tent that the original tent didn't have is this one has pockets the entire way around the inside of the tent. So if you can see, that's pockets, and they're each individual pockets, but they go all the way, besides where the doors are, around the inside of the tent, and that's really cool. Lots of place to put stuff up out of the way. You can tell how the bug net is in here. On one end, it almost covers the entire end, and then down here on the front side, it only covers the very top part. These zippers here, this is solely to get to those vents outside, so you can unzip here. This doesn't do anything for you besides let you stick your hand up here to this vent, and you just unvelcro that little stay and stick it back down. So if you're in some colder weather, you want less heat to get out, or if it's raining really hard, you can take those down and then you just pop it back up, your vent's back open. You can reach the one on the other side. Remember to zip that back closed so bugs don't get in. And then the other end of the tent has one as well. So this white piece of material in the middle is a wall that you can put up on this tent. And this one's a little different than the original tent. So the original one had one right down the center, and you would fold the doors back to the side. This is a removable wall, so if you don't want it at all, you can completely remove it. This one, kind of cool that you can clip it in the center. And then you can also clip it, if you come over to this other side, there's another spot to clip it, another 1.5 feet back or so. So if you wanted a main large area of the tent, like say you're sleeping there and then wanted an area to change in the back or something like that, you could have it a little farther back. Olivia's showing how you can clip it up right there and keep the walls out of the way. You can also clip it right to the center part to keep it held down in the middle. It zips together to create the full wall, and then you can see her clipping it to the floor. That keeps it in place. So That's a cool way to divide the tent. We'll do that every once in a while. Let our boys feel like they're sleeping on their own side. We have our own side. But honestly, unless you're trying to change or something, it's really not necessary for us. If you were sleeping with multiple families of adults in here or something and you wanted your own privacy, that would be a cool way to get it. So it's cool that that's removable, and then you can just throw it in one of these pockets down here on the side. So one of the reasons why we don't really care for this tent, especially on the inside, is mainly ventilation. With the new way they did the bug netting and the doors, we just get way less ventilation in here. It's really stiff. If we stay at a campsite with electricity, we put fans in here, and that helps a little bit. But the way that there's no bug netting at the bottom part of the door, just no air really flows through here. One thing you can do to help that out is to roll the rainfly back in a couple different configurations, and we will show you what that looks like. But that still doesn't get great airflow through here. The main thing you can do to get really good airflow through, and like I said, you can only do it part of the year, is to open these doors all the way up, and then you'll get a good breeze through here. Something that we had happen on our last trip is it had a pretty good rainstorm. Nothing I would say was like real treacherous. It definitely wasn't the biggest storm we've ever been in. Just a good, hard, steady rain. We actually had it dripping in our tent, and it wasn't coming from the actual vents themselves. It was coming from where all of these seams come together right up here. It was coming through, running down, and then dripping through. We had a couple different spots that were doing that, and that is one of the main reasons why we are taking this tent back. But didn't really care for that. Don't really care for the ventilation. Now that we're out, we're gonna fold the rainfly back and show you what that looks like. So we're gonna fold this rainfly back. This is one of the options to take it from front to back, where it only covers half the tent. And that wouldn't be useful while it's raining, but one thing that's cool about that is you already have your rainfly set up. So this happened to us during our last trip. It started raining middle of the night. I was able to just hop up, you unclip one clip, fold that forward, clip it back in, and then you're good to go. So you're able to have it pulled back for ventilation, get your rainfly back on within 30 seconds. So that's basically all there is to that mode. It's just nice for the extra ventilation. It's also nice because we slept on that end of the tent. Now you have that mesh above you. You can look up, see the sky. So that's really cool. So that's one way to fold the rainfly back. We're gonna fold that back forward and show you another way where you can roll it up from the bottom all the way down the tent. And that helps as well. It gives you shade all the way across the top, but still opens up the bottom a little bit, not to trap all that heat in there. So there you go. Now you can see how the rainfly is rolled up like that. Like I said, gives you a little bit of shade from the top, still allows airflow in this way and in the ends. So that's a couple different ways to set up the rainfly. Once again, this would be real easy to run out, unclip those, and then you just snap the clips in on the three sides, the three poles on each side. All right, so that was the REI Kingdom 6. They also make an 8-person version of this tent that's the same basic shape, just a little longer. We really wanted to like this tent. We like a lot of stuff about it, as I pointed out, but there's just too many things for how expensive this tent is that we didn't really care for. Especially just having water leak in. You pay that much for a tent, your seam shouldn't be leaking at all. Just a lot of the things they changed, I really felt like took away from what they had going on the last tent. But the absolute biggest thing that we don't care for about this tent that we loved about our last tent was the REI garage that hangs off the front. That's a whole separate room that you buy separate from the tent. The last version was called the garage. It was really big. We put a table under it. We would store all our stuff under there, chairs and everything at night. If it was raining outside, we would hang out under there. We would cook our food under there, eat under there. There was a ton of space. It's great for getting in and out whenever it's raining because it's completely covered. You don't have to worry about water dripping in your tent or anything like that. You can leave the doors open, lots of ventilation. The new one that they came out with is called the REI Mudroom, and it is not near as big as the other one. I think it's actually a little more expensive. It clips on very awkwardly. There are gaps between it and the rainfly of our tent. So on the old version, it would zip straight to this tent. There were no gaps. It zipped straight to the door. On this version of the tent, the mudroom, it clips on. Just absolutely did not like it. We actually put it on our tent one time at home when we were setting it up, hated it, put it right back in the bag, and never attempted to use it again. We've used the tent a few times since then, and just never came to really enjoy the tent for what we use it for and for how much money we spent on it. The quality of it is pretty good. Anything I'd expect from REI. Except for the fact that the seams leak, and I know that's a huge deal and it sounds like a really big deal, but the overall craftsmanship of the rest of it is pretty good. So that's it for the REI Kingdom 6. This was, like I said, a negative review of it. I know most stuff gets put out as positive. Everybody loves everything. Just wanted to show you the other side, things that are different. If you have a previous version and you're thinking about getting the new version like we did, it's just, there's a lot of stuff different, a lot of stuff they changed that I don't really care for. Anyway, so now we're on the hunt for another tent, and we'll see what we come up with. But thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this helped, and we'll see you later.